got it. Get both feet on this side. Get both feet on my side. Yep. Now pull as hard as you can toward me and give it a little throttle, just like that. Right there, good. There you go. Good job. That was deeper than I wanted to go.
Just a little bit.
Just keep on. Just keep giving it a little throttle. All right, guys, so I took the Renegade out on a little unfilmed trip, trying to get my little brother into this sport, and I broke a couple things, of course. I didn't want him breaking his four-wheeler. It's actually my old Grizzly 550 that's been featured on this channel so much, but I've passed that down to him, and he loves riding it, but I told him, I'm like, if you're gonna be out here with me, I'm financially responsible for both machines, so I want you to break this one if you're gonna break anything. And so you should have seen his face when he was on this. He is 13 years old and loved this thing. He does very well on the 550. I got to kind of teach him a little bit about the sport, how to work the four-wheeler around, but while I was driving it, I broke this front axle. You see right there. This was a factory axle. This is gonna be my last factory axle that actually has held on. And what else did I do? I found out that these tires are tucked too far into the body, and it actually ripped my coolant line off. You can see it looks a little bit warped and out of place because it grabbed somewhere in here and just ripped it off. And so at the same time, in the same hole that I broke that front axle, I ripped that off, and I was like, man. But he got to drag me back. I'm sure that was a bit of an experience for him getting to, I let him ride this while I managed the 550, making sure just not to overheat it and everything. But it was kind of a proud moment for him, I feel like, that mine broke and his didn't. So, but anyway, the other thing I did, I did not break, but let me show you this. I had torn this boot up and it lost the clip. And so that is just filled with nasty mud and rocks and everything else. So I have reached out to Demon Power Sports. I'm not a sponsored user or anything by them, but I reached out to them and got a new boot, got a new Demon front axle. I have a Torq Locker that I'm finally gonna get the chance to throw in. And I had Super ATV. I ordered a front 1.5 inch stretch. So in order to, I'm planning on running these tires for maybe another event or two, but the plan is to sell them and get back on some either 32 or 34 inch Assassinators. So I bought their forward arched A-arms, and the forward part of that means that it is going to be moving the hub 1.5 inches forward. And so it should fix the issue where it's hitting that coolant line, as well as a couple other things. I also just like the stretched look. Eventually, I do want to stretch the rear back. They have a 2-inch stretch for that. I don't know what company I'm gonna use for that. Super ATV was just the easiest to work with for the front. They have they had like a coupon code and whatever, so I got it shipped to my door in 2 days for under $400. You can't beat that for a quality set of A-arms, and I am actually waiting for them right now. It's supposed to be delivered between like 4:30 and 7, and it's currently like 4 o'clock, so it should be here pretty much any minute. But we are gonna take this up to my buddy's shop up in Rogers. He's got a huge shop that he just got. I'll get to show you a little bit around that. But he's gonna be working on his brand new project. We have so many things going on right now. It is so awesome to see this kind of work again. But he bought a Jimmy, which is the GMC version of the, it's kind of like a Tahoe. It's I'm gonna come up with the word here in a second. Blazer, that's the word. Could not think of it to save my life. But it is the GMC version of the Chevy Blazer. So it's got a little bit nicer interior, and that is about all that is left of the factory body. We do have like the doors, hood. The hood's gonna have to be cut. The fenders, I think we're gonna go with a tube body. But I'm just gonna have to show you this thing because it is absolutely ridiculous, and it is gonna be so great to see it out at Rocktoberfest this year. That's where we're hoping to do the unveiling of it. But we're gonna go ahead and jump on down the road and let's get this project started. Now, one thing I did forget to mention is that my Jeep is also at this guy's house. I'm sure you noticed that it wasn't in the garage like it normally is. I brought it up here just to kind of get it out of my way while I was working on the four-wheeler, but it turns out all of my tools were in it because I thought I'd be fixing it before I broke the four-wheeler again, but here we are. So, but right now that Jeep has the transfer case that needs to be pulled and replaced because we cracked the housing. I'll show you that video here. Oh my God, I blew a transfer case. That's ATF dumping. You're kidding me. And then I also have a new drive shaft that I'm gonna have to put in it. In order for that drive shaft to fit though, we're gonna have to pull the yoke off of a different Dana 30 front axle and put it, basically just switch out the yokes, because originally I had a CV joint axle. I don't know why I didn't put it there, but it was a custom length CV axle for the ZJ, and so we're now going to be going with a double U-joint axle, but we're going to have to change that yoke out like I said. So we do have a couple things coming for it. I'll probably be fixing that in the next week or two. I've got school starting up this next week. I'm probably going to be posting this video here in a few weeks, but yeah, school starts next week for me, and so it'll be just syllabus stuff, and so I'm probably going to sneak up here and get as much work done as I can before school really kicks off. That way I have a vehicle to drive around, hopefully by Rocktoberfest. If you don't know what Rocktoberfest is, it's a great little event. It's out at Birds Off-Road Park, which is right in like the Ozark Mountain area of Arkansas. And so it's a good, smaller park. It's a little bit cheaper. It's really close for me. I think it's about an hour and a half. And hopefully it'll be a great little like break-in run for the Jeep. But of course we're gonna have to do something about the driveline angles, because I just can't have anything that'll hold up to that angle. So I'm either gonna have to drop the transfer case down and just give up that ground clearance, or I'm gonna have to drop my lift quite a bit, because it has a 7-inch lift with a spacer on it. I for sure can pull the spacer off, but I think even with that, I'm still gonna have to drop the transfer case itself. I have thought about clocking the transfer case, but that is gonna take a whole new cross member, and I don't know if I have the ability to make that strong enough. But we'll see. I haven't completely decided, but it's gonna take a lot to get that thing to line up. And if I ever want it to be as reliable as a stock drive shaft would be, then I'm gonna have to really drop that thing, and it's gonna put my transfer case in a lot more of harm's way until I can get a skid plate. And I don't know, I've never dealt with solid axle things. I've always been single axle or individual suspension, except for like a Honda rear wheel. But like, it's definitely a little bit different, trying to figure out all the angle and stuff like that. So it's gonna take a little bit of playing around with, but we're gonna figure out where I want it. That Jeep's got a lot of work. I got a hacksaw now, so it's gonna look like a true Cherokee. We're gonna have to definitely cut the fenders a little bit. And the thing is, the tires are tucked in as well, and so I'm hitting my inner fender. I'm hitting everywhere. So I'm gonna have to do like bump stops and everything else. But that's another reason that I don't really want to drop the lift, because the tires that are on it are in the direction I want to go, but they don't truly fit for an off-road vehicle. They fit on-road or whatever, but for the articulation that I need to be able to do a little bit more. I need to have the bigger tires. So it is a little bit crazy to me that I'm running an 8-inch lift in 35s and it still rubs, but you know, we'll figure it out. I think a lot of it might just be the back spacing. It needs to be pushed out more. The other way I could do that is just swapping to a Dana 44 or a 60 front or something like that, or I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that I could space those tires out, but I think that every single one of them involves either changing the wheel to either something that's more back spaced out or an actual full-on 8 lug if I go with a Dana 60. I don't feel like with my current driving style with it, I don't think I would really benefit from a 60. The 60 that I have for that thing currently is technically a 3/4 ton, not a 1 ton, so I'm kind of debating on selling it, because if I'm gonna make a big axle swap and dump $1,000 into an axle, I need it to be something that will be a long-term thing for me. So I just need to kind of figure out where I'm at with it, and but definitely a lot of work that's going to be happening to this Jeep here in the next little bit. I'm hoping to get it up by that Rocktoberfest, but I'm not exactly sure if I will or be able to or not. All right, here we are. Got this little shop over here. It's a nice little area, but if we wait and see what's on the other side of it, it's his trailer, and there's the ZJ. All right, so the first thing you're gonna do is remove your wheel as well as any wheel spacer that you might have. You will have to do this in order to remove the cotter pin for the axle nut. In my case, the lug nuts were 18 millimeter, 14 millimeter, and 17 millimeter, but I have different adapters and lug nuts than a factory bike would have. The factory axle nut is a 27 millimeter. Now, because my bike does not have brakes, I positioned this hammer inside of the hub to make sure that it wasn't going to rotate on me as I tried to loosen the axle nut. Next, I removed the brake caliper, which is held on by two 15 millimeter bolts on the back of the hub. Now, both the lower ball joint and the shock are 15 millimeter bolts, and then I moved it out of the way like this in order to get the factory axle out that I had broken. Next, we're going to pull this tie rod out, which is a 19 millimeter. Now, this can be a pain to get to, but I recommend turning your wheel back and forth until you find the place where your wrench fits in the best. All right, now for the upper ball joint, that is another 19. So I'm gonna get one of these little wobble sockets, then a 19, and then just like that. That way I can do just like that, run my impact to it. Now ideally in this situation, you would actually use a ball joint remover, but I don't have one, so what I did is I slipped a nut back on the end of the ball joint and hit it with a hammer. You do this so that it protects the threads as you hit it. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is unmount the differential from the frame. It is two 15mm bolts and one 13mm bolt up top. Now what you'll slowly see me realize is that while the 15 on the back and the 13 on the top come out easily, the 15 on the bottom is blocked in by the bolts from the front lower A-arm. And so in order to remove those, I also had to move my winch, which was four 10mm bolts on the bottom of my bumper. Now I'm going to start taking off these A-arms. All of the A-arm bolts are 15mm on each side. Oh, it wants it. Now you will need to remove the brake lines from the A-arms. I believe that this was a T25 Torx bit. Just not getting enough fuel. I can hear coolant flowing through this. So, eBay came through. Alright, so I'm going to cut this band here, make sure not to cut the boot, and then we're going to be able to rotate this thing up and slide that apart and get this thing out of here. Now I did end up cutting the band on the very front as well as both bands on that rear boot. She runs now. We had a split hose down in the fuel tank. So the hose from like that connected the fuel pump was just split in half. So she runs good now. He's got full hydro steering. Watch this. Oh shit. Oh my god. Like, it is so, like, look at that. Like, you can throw the wheel. 42s? Is that what these are? Yeah. That's crazy. That's nuts. Alright, so this is my drain plug, and as you see, previous owner made that a circle. So what I'm going to try to do is use one of these extractor tips, get that out of there. That might be the right one. I might size up. I'm obviously missing a couple. This is the jump I have. So I'm going to try to do it with this one. That way I'm not just making a huge mess when I open this up. Then I'm going to flip it upside down, and it'll be a T40 that opens up the rest of this differential. We're going to start working on that Torq Locker. Here, I'm going to hammer it in. Shot spark that last time. Alright, got both gloves on. That'll do it. There it is. Alright, so we relocated. I'm going to try it with the impact this time around. There's just nothing to grab onto when you're pulling this thing. The impact made this a lot easier and was able to break the nuts free a lot quicker. Well, so there's your pinion. Still really sharp edges on that. And then here's the actual spider gears right here. So everything looks still really good. So we are going to flip this thing over, take that little thing off, and we're gonna take all the Visco Lok stuff out of here and get this thing a Torq Locker. All right, so I'm gonna do my best to let y'all kind of see what we're doing here. First things first, we're gonna pull the little ring off right here. There we go. All right, so we just found out that this is a Visco Lok QE, which is a little bit different. And so after removing that ring, you remove this outer ring, and then this is a plastic cover that I'll have to do with 2 hands, but I'll do that next. All right, so I figured out how to open this. So use you a screwdriver, push down and under this, and there's a little bit of a lip, and eventually if you push hard enough, there you go. There's all that viscous fluid from that Visco Lok. So I'm going to clean all of this stuff out, and there's more in here. So I'm gonna have to leave this upside down and let it drain out of those 2 holes. Probably gonna leave this at least overnight. But we're gonna take the little pins out of the spider gears. A little hard to get to this. But little snap rings, keep up with these. So that allows that to slide out. And then from there, yeah, rotates around. You've got 2 spider gears with these little caps on them. I don't know, strange. And then this falls out, and this other one should do the same. Come on with it. There it is. Okay, and there are little shims on these. Alright, so you do want to take all the factory shims out. I have a shim from the Torq Locker kit in there now, so I'm going to put one of the bottom gears, looks like this, on top of that shim. I'm going to go just like that. Then you get one of these. They're both identical, so you can do either one. Line it up where it's parallel, just like that. Then one of these with a washer, end up there, and then let me see which way it goes. That way. Okay, perfect. And there's your Torq Locker. Now there are 2 spaces here, and then on the complete opposite side there, and that is where you're going to put these little springs. So I'm going to set the spring right there. I'm going to kind of pick up these 2 and make sure these 2 are still slid down. I'm able to just do that with my fingers. Spin it around. All right, now this one should be a little bit easier because there's already that little bit of pressure coming from the other side. We're going to put the spring right there. Use this hand, lift this up, and then just compress the spring, slide it in right there. And there is your Torq Locker. All right, now we're going into the actual just putting everything back together. So we're gonna take the same factory snap ring that we took off earlier, slide it right through there. And then I have to get this little tool. Hopefully we'll be able to pretty easily do this, just right around, just like that. All right, now this is ready to go back into the differential housing. All All right, got that snap ring on. We're gonna drop it right back down into this. Make sure we still have our shim. Okay. Then same thing, there's a shim on the other side too. So we're gonna wanna make sure when we put this, oh, that's dripping, hold on. All right, so I'm gonna take this, put it on like that. Okay, there we go. There you go. Got these holes lined up. We're just gonna put these back in, back to the Torq spec. All right, so it's a new day. So far what I've done today, I put blue Loctite on each of these and tighten them down. You do want to tighten them to Torq spec. I'm gonna have to Google what that is. But get each one to Torq spec. I also did a very thin bead of a gear oil gasket maker. They're specifically for differentials and transfer cases. So be sure to get at least just a little bit. It does have an O-ring from factory, so that should seal it, but when you're pulling these things off and they're 8-10 years old, throw one on. It literally costs like, I don't know, $12, and it could keep you from destroying a $900 differential. So spend $12 and do that. But we're tightening all these up now, and I did get a new drain plug. I haven't put it in yet, but if you don't strip out the threads, it is a 1/8 inch, and you're gonna wanna go with, if you don't wanna just order the Can-Am part, go with a brass thread in one. It is in the plumbing section at Lowe's. I got mine for $3.50. So do that, or if you do strip out the threads, which I've done with the front, I'm gonna drill that out and make it a 1/4, and then I'm also gonna do the Lowe's thing. They do have thread tappers and stuff like that you can rent at O'Reilly's. I don't know how much the kit is, but it could be $1,000. But if you return the kit, they will give you the entire refund back. And so just do that. Super easy. You don't have to take it to anybody. But just, we're going to throw that diff, we're going to throw the drain plug in, and then we're going to fill this thing up with oil. All right, so today what we're doing, first thing, we're pressing the ball joints out of the OEM. This is the lower. I did one of the uppers already. I wanted to make sure this would work before I showed y'all. But so what I did is, of course, you pull the snap ring off, and then we have a hydraulic press. We just kind of set this like that. This is from, I believe it's AutoZone, but it's considered an installing tube. We put that underneath, and that lets gives the ball joint something to just fall down into. And then I used my 27, and I set it just like this, and it pressed it very smoothly down. It got to this line right here, so roughly 1 metric ton, but it was like as soon as it made contact, it immediately started pushing down. And that's how you know that you're not destroying that ball joint. First things first, we're gonna pull the snap ring. All right, so we have the adapter from AutoZone, and then we have my 27 mil with the 27 side down, so it wraps completely around this. That's how we're gonna get this started. Okay, it's flush with the arm now, so we're gonna release it a little bit. All right, now we're gonna flip this socket. We wanna line that up directly with the middle. Tighten it down a little bit. Okay. Center it up once it's touching. right on through. There it is. All right, so this is I know it's not the typical way of doing this, but this is the way of doing it if you don't have a bunch of tools. But so what I've done is I have the receiving cup from the AutoZone pack that we have, and then I have a 1/2-inch socket. I'm using my 1 3/16, but you could really use whatever. But so we're gonna line this up, and what it does, it doesn't work on the bottom ones, but it slides over, and there's a little lip on this part, and so you don't actually hit the boot, but it grabs on right there, and you can see, maybe you can see grabs up there, so it's not gonna hit that. But so we're just gonna line this up. It's like that. Then crank it down. Goes in very easily. I'll get you up here. Very easily, very smoothly. And then once it hits, I've been giving it 2 pumps, and that's it. Then I'll release. I'm gonna grab this out of it actually. I'm gonna release this. That releases that. There you go. That is how I'm installing the upper ball joints, and then I'll show you how I'm doing the lowers as well. So here's how I have the lower. I'm going to put the receiving cup on top, and then it is just balanced on the outside of the installer tube, just like that. I'm going to set this. I'm going to start it in there a little bit. I'm going to do like this, and I'm going to hand lift this up and make sure everything is lined up so it's pushing straight down. That's what we want. And then just very smoothly. Okay. Able to release. There it is, pressed in, just like that. Alright, so since we've already got this thing off and torn apart, I'm just going to go ahead and replace the wheel bearings. And so I have my 1 3/16 and then just one of the receivers down below. So we're just going to crank this down to it real quick. Make sure it's good and lined up. There's your old one, just like that. Now, one thing I want to point out, make sure there is a little snap ring, make sure to pull that out before you press it, or where this one has a little lip, that one doesn't because I didn't pull the snap ring. There was a snap ring. Take the snap ring off. Yeah. Alright, now we're going to press the new one in. This one is from, let's see, Rocky Mountain bearings. I don't know, it had like a 5-year warranty or something on it. So, yeah. We'll see how they do. I've been running them in the rear for about a year now. I haven't had any issues, so. Make sure you don't forget to run your differential. You don't run it without some gear oil in it. Just got it finished up. It's actually coming home with me for the first time in a little bit now. Perfect timing for that. But so went together fairly easily past that, and it was just a lot of retightening all the bolts and everything like that. But one thing I am gonna have to change up quite a bit is the camber as well as the tie rods. Definitely glad that those are adjustable, because it's pretty bad, especially like, so since we pushed it forward, it needed to have a little bit extra room on each side of the tie rod, and so both tires are pointed to the outside, so gonna have to make those a little bit longer. And the camber on the left side, like let's say this is straight, it is like a good like 20 degrees out. So it's gonna be an off-road rig, but at the same time, like, it's bad enough that like it would probably mess something up just because of how strong of an angle that is. So we're gonna have to push that bottom out. But other than that, went together really easily. But if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. There'll be a lot more coming up with literally everything. All my projects are hopefully coming to an end here soon. We've got the Jeep getting a transfer case and drive shafts. The Jimmy's getting a lot of work done to it. I'm not filming most of it because we're just trying to get that thing done. We probably have another 40 probably hours of work that needs to go into it. So we just need to focus on getting it done, so it'll be hopefully done in time for that Rocktoberfest at Birds. But the Jeep, the Jimmy, the motorcycle, I've got a couple little more things to it. It's not running great. I don't know what happened, but the air fuel mixture is just terrible, and so I need to figure that out. And then there's a couple little other things that I just need to work through on it, figure out what I'm going to do with it. But yeah, so if you enjoy those kind of videos, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that little bell, because you're not going to want to miss these.